that's how they're going to make money. So you start to see like some big webs all going into different directions. And also, there are a lot of language barriers that we forget about. This is the market share of search in Korea, and Google has like 12% of the market. And so we forget that there are a lot of different linguistical, if that's a word, parts of the world where actually we really don't have access to them, and they function in a totally different way. Korea, China, Japan, for example. And I think there are a lot of implications for what I just showed. So this convergence, this replication of content, and this diverging webs. There is a lot of noise, of course. There is a lot of totally useless information. There is a lot of, I feel there is a big overload of information. And overload is a very dangerous notion. Nicola Nova, one of my colleagues, found a quote for 1613, from a guy who said, now that there is a printing press, there is way too much knowledge. We're all going to die because we cannot learn everything. So, I mean, as soon as there is an innovation, people feel totally overwhelmed by it. And the books were overwhelming. And still now, nobody feels overwhelmed by the books, despite the fact that even if you were reading constantly, you could only read 0.0001% of the books ever written. But we feel overwhelmed by the web, and probably this is going to change. But still, right now, I think it's an issue, and we don't have the right tools for that. There is a loss of traceability of the data, so we don't know where information comes from. There's been discussions before about the implication this can have, like suddenly fake information being reproduced on many websites and taking the stock of a company down. One of the things also is that I think we still don't know what business model we should have for content online. I think the business model of social media is yet to be found. It's not Google AdWords, because the more experienced users stop clicking on them and they don't pay enough. So something has to happen, but it's not happening now. And also, I try to go a bit faster, but I think that I see more and more early adopters kind of disconnecting from the network because it's getting too overwhelming. I don't know who doesn't have too many emails. Who thinks he's got just enough emails? Okay, nobody. Oh, you're very lucky. Do you print your emails then? Or? But I think that that's very good. You should have someone delete them. It's even for you. Oh, my assistant deleted it. Deleted your email. But yeah, I think that you can really see among early adopters there's some kind of network fatigue, that people get fed up with always having too many emails and being too connected. So you have a lot of people closing their blogs. You have a lot of people declaring email bankruptcy and say, okay, I'm not going to answer emails anymore. And I think that's also an issue. It probably shows that there is a need for a better tool. So this convergence and divergence of online, I think, is a big evolution that is happening. The last point I wanted to make was about open source. I think there is something happening right now, and it's really, really big, in my opinion, is that the open source movement started in software, and now it's coming to hardware. So it means that before it was very easy to create a software from pieces that would exist. Now you have some things like, this is the Arduino board. It's an Italian project, and it's open source hardware. So you can buy some parts. It's like Legos. You can buy some parts and recreate an object. So suddenly now you have some guys redoing objects, copying objects. I don't know if do you see what a TV Bigone is? It's a small remote control that allows you to shut down every TV around you. It's a small gadget that sells for like $29. And there are some people who, reusing this open source hardware, allow you to redo that thing. And so suddenly, what happened in the web with this constant copy of content replication is now happening with objects. And what happened, that's maybe the wrong side. The good side is that what happened in the web with somebody waking up, having an ID, and suddenly starting Google can now happen with objects. And maybe the next iPod will be invented by one guy, and maybe it's you. So it's a huge opportunity. And also, one of the consequences of that is that there is some kind of dilution of responsibility now because everybody can make objects. So anybody can make green or less green objects. So everybody can have an impact on a bigger question like global warming. And I think it's quite a big change. You can see that, for example, in the electric car market, where electric cars, I went to the Salon de l'Auto in Geneva, and actually the electric cars are all very small companies that are restarting, and there are like 50 of them doing electric cars. So it's totally fragmented. And some of the companies are started by 2 or 3 people, like you and me. It was impossible 5 years ago. Now it's possible again. And I think it's a big, big thing that you have to take into account. Some evolutions for the business sphere. I think there has been a fundamental shift in the notion of job security, which is always very important. I'll let the police pass by. Network is the new job security. Now there is no, I used to work for Arthur Andersen, right? I was a consultant for Arthur Andersen. I made my mother very proud. And then in 1 week, I was out of a job because of Enron and because of one guy at the other side of the planet shrinking some documents in Houston. Right now, yeah, I think it's much safer to work for yourself than to work for a big bank, for example. Because when you work for yourself, if you have less work and you make less money, you just wake up earlier and you make more phone calls. If you work for a big company, maybe somebody is screwing you on the other side of the planet and there's nothing you can do about it. And there is a lot of, you should really change your perception of job security, I think. And this is my job security. This is my LinkedIn account. This is the people I can reach very easily. And this is how I know that I will always have a job, I hope. Private life is invading work. It's not the other way around. We always think that we get some calls from our bosses on Sunday and that life sucks because of that. But actually, some very serious studies that it's the other way around. You have more people checking Facebook at work than you have bosses calling employees on Sunday. A lot more. And this is, again, I think, a big change that needs to be taken into account, especially for the people who are managers around here. And some of you are. About content. We come from a world, we had this kind of magical period where, because of user-generated content, it was very easy to get on top of the rankings. You make a video on YouTube, suddenly it gets noticed and you get millions of views. What I notice now is that more and more we come back to a resource-based hierarchy. Before you could go on top of YouTube because you made a funny video. Now if you check the top videos of YouTube, they're all made by professionals. So we came back to this kind of professionalized world where basically if you can hire a Guy Ritchie, you're going to get more views than if you can hire my little sister to make your video. And that's a big difference from before. Also, I think that global is local again. 10 years ago, I used to develop websites for clients, and when we would launch the website, we'd get some international attention. Now, when you launch your website, there are so many websites out there that nobody cares most of the time. So what you're going to do is that you're going to put your URL on your business cards, and you're going to put your URL on your stores if you have some stores, and then you're going to regrow an audience, but locally. That's also a very big change that comes up with this kind of maturity of the web. So again, professionals are on top again, and I think that we are more and more local. And one last point about new innovations in the business sphere is that there are a lot of new exchanges and currencies. I put a screenshot of Mechanical Turk. Have you heard of Mechanical Turk? Amazon? Yeah. I think it's the company with the coolest tagline ever. It's artificial intelligence. It's right there. Basically, it's artificial intelligence made by humans. So you have a very basic task. Imagine, for example, Google with the Street View. So it's this application where you can go into a map and ask to see the pictures around the location. And so what they did is that they put the pictures into Mechanical Turk, and you had some people who validated the pictures. So they just had to click one thing. This is a good picture, this is a bad picture.